What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video, and today we're going to be talking about my honest opinions on the brand new Esports Boxing Club gameplay that dropped February 17th. Now, I've had a couple of days to sit on it and, not just make my opinions off the initial hype, watch it a lot, break it down, edit it up a lot for different videos, and now I feel like I can give my honest opinions. So we're going to be going through the things that I didn't like and the things that I did like. I'm not really scripting this at all. I'm just going to kind of just talk about it a little bit. I've written a few things down, just a few key points, but mainly we're just going to talk about it. And yeah, anyways, let's just get. So we're going to start with the things that I didn't like, just to get that small amount of negativity out of the way. And to be totally honest, it was tough to find things that I actually didn't like. All of it was really genuinely impressive, so it was quite tough to find things to know as not liking, as opposed to just different opinions. So first things first is this wide angle. I'm just not a fan of it, and that's just a camera angle, so that can be changed. That really has no input on anyone, including myself. Really, I can just change that angle and never use it. The only thing that bothered me with this is this wide angle, and watching it the first few times, it seemed the footwork was a little bit odd. However, graphically, I think we can tell that this gameplay is much older compared to the rest of this video itself. But the more I've watched this, the more I actually end up liking this wide angle. Whereas initially, I really didn't like it, and I thought, oh, this gameplay looked old. But watching it more and being like, oh, actually, this gameplay is clearly older than the gameplay towards the end of the video. And they've obviously improved it. Just at the start, I wasn't a huge fan of this wide angle. It seemed like their feet weren't quite on the mat. It seemed a bit odd, like they were almost either in the mat or floating on the mat. It seemed a bit odd, but the more I look at it, the more I generally don't mind it. However, the one camera angle that I actually hate is this one, the over the shoulder of Wilder. So clearly the player is playing as Wilder right now, and I do not like this one at all. It reminds me of the PC mobile boxing game called Real Boxing. Obviously, this is completely personal. Some of you guys will probably love this camera angle, and don't get me wrong, I like the close-up angle where you can see them both side on, but this just over like a singular shoulder. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it in these kind of fighting games, in boxing UFC games. I just don't like it at all. I think it's ugly. I think it limits what you can see. I'm not a fan at all. So yeah, but that's just my personal opinion on just that camera. That's the only thing I didn't like. I thought that was a waste of time to show that, but I think it's also a good thing that they show it, because we got to see all the variations of camera angles. But other than that, I really couldn't find nothing that I didn't like. The only other thing that I have is the inside fighting. While amazing, it does seem super fast. There are a few snippets that I'll show you guys where it just seemed a bit unnaturally quick. Like, I know they're snappy, but even this one clip that I'll show you where Rocky Marciano is throwing really fast shots, and I know they're inside uppercuts and they're inside hooks, and those can be somewhat snappy, but there's a few where he throws super quick hooks with no stamina. So obviously, if we're going off the stamina bar is somewhat short-term complete exhaustion, he's still throwing rapid fire hooks. And for me, it's just that little thing where I just wasn't a huge fan. I thought his stamina's down and he's still throwing them as rapid as fuck. I thought they were a bit too fast, especially as the rest of the gameplay's got a very nice and realistic speed to it. I just felt like that inside fighting, while realistic, and I loved it, I really did, I thought just some of the shots, only a few of them, were a bit too quick for my liking. But you guys have to know what you think. Was Rocky Marciano actually a snappy fighter? I know that he was a fucking, an absolute animal, but was he that fast, even when completely exhausted? It's just that little, when the stamina was completely down, but he was still rapid. Just that little thing for me that I wasn't a huge lover of. Now we're going to talk about the game's praises, and I'm going to give the game all the praise in the world. Other than those little bits that I mentioned, I cannot find a single fault in this trailer. Obviously, you've got a few little funny glitches like jelly face and stuff, but other than that, I genuinely found the video somewhat flawless to perfect. It was brilliant. Everything about it, the gameplay has improved 1,000-fold, never mind 10-fold. I'm blown away by how good the gameplay really looks. I think everything is at perfect speed. Everything looks flawlessly realistic when it comes to the punching and the trading. Like, we can tell clearly the punches have been tightened and cleaned up and polished. Also, like I said, not completely beyond finished. They want to constantly improve it, which is brilliant. We can tell that's definitely been a huge focus of theirs to get these punches almost perfect. You're never going to get them perfect. I'll always say you're never going to get perfection, because it is a video game at the end of the day, and boxing is just so unpredictable in every manner, from 6,000 different styles of fighting, 20,000 different fights. You're never going to get it perfect, but I tell you what, they're pretty fucking close. Obviously, we've got the player models. look fantastic. I mean, there's little things you would say you would change. You know, Fury's beard is maybe a bit too ginger, a bit too bright. Caleb Plant and Carl Froch's hair is maybe a bit too dark, but those are things that aren't even worth like pointing out as negatives, just because they're so minute in the grand scheme of things from how good that fucking looks. And then I also saw people saying that Wilder's legs need to be fixed. Now, I don't know who you're watching, but if you watch Wilder in real life, that motherfucker's legs are skinny as fuck. Yes, he's a big lad. He's 6'7", whatever it is. He weighs north 17 stone. He's a big motherfucker. But his legs are like baguettes. They are. His legs are so skinny. They have got him spot on. His stance, in comparison to the real version and in the game version, first I thought it's a bit wide. However, he does have quite a wide-legged stance. His legs are quite far apart when he's got his stance. Hands, you know, kind of like here. You know, they got Fury. I mean, Fury's thing with this, you know, with touching his nose and doing all this, and then, you know, all the jiggling in his body. Oh, brilliant. They have nailed those models. I'd like to see more marquee fighters that have those like, you know, those habits in the game. You know, I'd like to see more of them. You know, for example, Canelo, I'd like to see him throw that lead body hook. You know, how does that look? As well as, you know, can you roll with punches like Canelo and you know, head movement like Canelo? I'd like to see, you know, because obviously we saw like Caleb Plant, but Caleb Plant's jab is maybe his key feature, for example, but there's only so much they can show with that, whereas Fury, they're able to show this, you know, this movement, and that's what I want to see more of. I want to see more marquee fighter movements where we recognise a fighter, even if it's a silhouette. You could recognise, you know, a big lad, a big boxer doing all this. You would recognise that's Tyson Fury, because look at the size of him, wide, and he's jitting around all the time. You'd recognise that's Fury, and that's what we need. We need to be able to recognise their movements as a silhouette, and so far they have done that brilliantly. I generally cannot talk highly enough of it. I am really blown away. The more I watch it, the more I'm impressed. There's, like I said, you know, we got to see the ref as well in it, and the ref is actually moving around. He's not just like this all the time. He's moving around, and I think that is brilliant. You know, just little things, you know, little things are starting to do. You know, one thing that I point out that I really like is, opposed to the July gameplay, for example, the ring is much brighter, but the crowd is more blurred and dark, and that's far better in my opinion. You know, when you know, I don't watch the crowd when I fight, unless you see, like, you know, Gordon Ramsay in the background, and that's the only time you look at the crowd. But, you know, like, for example, when I fought, I didn't really notice the crowd. The crowd was pretty dark, to be honest. The ring, you know, all the lights are on the ring, and the crowd, you know, you can't really see the crowd too much. It's like a big blur when you're fighting. You don't notice the crowd. You can barely hear them, let alone notice them. So I'm happy that they haven't put as much light onto the crowd. I prefer the darker crowd and the brighter ring with the focus on the fighters and the focus on you guys, which I think is just far, far better. So I think from what we've seen in 6 months difference, they have improved incredibly so. They should all be so proud of themselves. It's absolutely mind-blowing what they've achieved. Honestly, I can't speak highly enough. Like I said, everything from punches, combinations, head movement, body movement, mannerisms of fighters, combinations, fighters registering getting hit, is just so much cleaner, smoother, tightened up, polished in comparison to what we've seen so far. And not to mention, I saw people saying, you know, you're not going to get better than Fight Night. Shut the fuck up. Just shut up. There is no comparison right now. Not to mention the lack of the invisible wall that I mentioned in my initial breakdown with the fight on the inside. They're actually touching each other. That is fucking perfect. That when they're pushing on each other like this, I mean, that is just brilliant. Like, there is no game that has done that before. There is no game that is throwing punches at a realistic pace, head movement at a realistic pace yet again. You know, the movement and the head movement is real. You know, in other games it's like this, like a fucking, you know, like a fucking Tekken game. And whereas they're making it real, you know, you're really sliding, you're rolling with these punches, you're not everything's like light and fast jabs and light and fast shots. Sometimes, yes, the shots are a little bit, you know, poking them out and you move around them. That's what boxing is, and that's what makes it brilliant. And they have, you know, I think what I'm going to have to say here, I'm focusing on the game, and it's going to be, you know, I'm going to be giving them some praise here. But one thing that bothers me the most is when people say, it doesn't look like this, it doesn't look like that. No matter what anybody says to me, of course, yes, they could clean up punches, they could clean up maybe the reaction of the opponent taking the punches a little bit better, of course they could. But when it comes to strikes being thrown, people that watch it, people that are fans of it, we have no understanding. The people that are doing the mocap for it are professional fighters. The people that are giving them advice are professional fighters. So you're going to sit and you're going to tell me, oh, me an armchair expert. Oh, well, I know how to throw a jab better than Terence Crawford. Of course I do. That was what bothers me the most, is that people will say that, oh, you could, this punch needs to be better, or this needs to look better, or they don't look like that at all. And yet they've got pro fighters giving them advice. That's what bothers me more than anything, because they're getting advice from pro fighters. They're listening to the community. They're listening to their fighters. They're listening to their roster, and they're doing what needs to be done. What these fighters are saying, what's going to make the game the most realistic, and the fighters are telling them and they're doing it. The fighters are showing them and they're doing it, and I think that is just brilliant. Yes, the game may take a little while because that is the way they're doing it. They could have probably if they weren't that bothered, they could have pushed the game out already, in my opinion, because they would have just got one fighter to mocap it all, stick it on every fighter and push it out, but they're not doing it like that. And that's what people need to understand is you don't know more about throwing a perfect punch than a professional world champion at 16-0, 25-0, 38-0. You just don't. And I think that's where it's so brilliant. Is you can tell the passion they've put into this as a team, and the passion they're putting into the community is just perfect, and they deserve all the credit in the world. Absolutely hats off to the developers, from everything from the gameplay itself to even things like the little HUD down below, the little timer. Everything looks brilliant. Everything is so pleasant and pleasing to the eyes. Not to mention, before we saw things like the menus in the older gameplay, everything like that is not just gameplay, but like like I said, the little HUDs with the stamina bar and the little name, the flag, the beats per minute thing, the little timer. All of that is so pleasing to the eye. It's so perfect. It suits the game so well. There is nothing else negative for me to say. It really is brilliant. And of course, like I said, there is some funny things like there's a few little bugs in the trailer, and but that's what game development is. It's in progress. It's still in alpha, and for it to look that smooth, I mean, I would hate to see the state of UFC 4 in alpha. When that was in alpha, I mean, fuck me, that shit, I can't even imagine what that looked like. When the full game dropped, it was like an early beta. I hate to imagine what the alpha looked like, honestly. Like, what a shit show that would have been. But honestly, what a video. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about it, just give my honest opinion. I've been watched it a lot, and I just want to talk about it because I'm blown away by it. I really am. The developers deserve nothing but all the credit in the world, all the respect in the world from us as a community. They've fucking smashed it. And like I said, that's why I didn't just want to focus on the gameplay. Even look, like I said, the HUD when you're fighting, things like that. That deserves credit as well, because that for me is important. I like to have it pleasing on the eyes when I've got the HUD up, and it really is. Everything has been improved, from the HUD to the gameplay, to the punches, the visuals, the crowd, the ring, the lighting. Everything is brilliant. So as a team, you can tell they're really, intertwined with one another, and they're all on the same page, and they're all going towards the same goal, and it is brilliant. So well done to them all. Genuinely so impressed. But yeah, I just wanted to give my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below. And yeah, like I said, man, don't compare this to some Fight Night shit, because it's just not, man. It's just not. I know that Fight Night was the last boxing game we had, and that was what a lot of people played when they were 7, 8, 9 years old, and now they're 18, and Fight Night's all they've ever seen, so they believe that's what looks. It doesn't. Trust me, it just doesn't. From watching all levels of professionals and all levels of amateurs and all levels of beginners in boxing, Fight Night Champion has never looked real, and that's just a fact. And even the biggest Fight Night Champion players in the world, the best online players, will tell you the exact same thing that I'm saying right here. But yeah, I just want to get that out and just talk about it, and just say, fuck me, man. They really do deserve some credit, because this is fucking amazing. It's without a doubt one of the best alpha trailer videos I've ever seen in my life. It's brilliant. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Hopefully, from my predictions, my guess is September, but that is a huge guess. Don't quote me on that. Do not fucking quote me on that. September is my guess, and yeah, that's that I'd be alright with that. I'd be alright with that. But I look forward to it. But anyways, thank you as always for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. Drop a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.